Everybody sing, make love great again. Make love great again. Make love great again. Make love great again. We can all be great, make love great.
Hi, I'm Princess Lockerooo, and I'm pleased to have the opportunity to interview singer, songwriter, dancer, choreographer, and Soul Train icon, Jeffrey Daniel. Jeffrey is known for being a founding member of the group Shalimar. He was also part of a group that was formed on Soul Train called the Outrageous Wack Dancers, featuring Jody Watley, Cleveland Moses, and Tyrone Proctor. Thank you so much for being here, Jeffrey.
The pleasure is mine, and most of all, it's a pleasure for me to really connect with my niece. Finally, me and my niece are connected.
That's right, Uncle Jeffrey. It's such an honor. You know, we were all so shocked and saddened by the sudden passing of Tyrone. And speaking with you is a great opportunity to learn more about him, to learn more about you and about Waacking history. Tyrone arrived in LA September 22nd, 1972 at 10:22 Pacific Standard Time on a Tuesday. And then within the next few months, he was dancing on Soul Train. So when and where did you first meet Tyrone?
I've already seen him in the Right On magazine. And then I'm watching him dancing on Soul Train. So I noticed him dancing. Primarily, I was looking at Don Campbell, Gray Complock Jr., Fluky Luke, Scooby-Doo, because I wanted to be a locker. That was my thing. That was my whole thing. I was a locker. So at school, I was the best locker or robot dancer at whatever school I went to. And that was my thing. I went to Maverick's Flat because I found out that that's where the Soul Train dancers went. And that's where the lockers went. I was too young to get in because you have to be 18 and over to get in Maverick's Flat. And I was just 17. So I went to the door, they wouldn't let me in. I would have to go around the back into the alley and climb over the fence and sneak in through their courtyard because they didn't have air conditioning in there. So they called it the sweat box because it got hot in there. So they had to leave the door open to allow some air to come in and out. And that's the door I used to sneak in. One day I was there and I got there kind of early-ish and I was on the floor dancing. Suddenly I looked to my right and somebody was dancing and it was Tyrone. And I'm like, okay, that's Tyrone the Bone. So I'm looking at Tyrone. So Tyrone did a step, 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 1, 2, 3, bump, bump, bump. I did it too. Bump, 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 bump. So Tyrone started doing the Scooby-Doo. 1, 2, Scooby-Doo. 1, 2, Scooby. I did the Scooby-Doo. 1, 2, Scooby-Doo. Then he did the Skeeter Rabbit. Dun, 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 dun. I did the Skeeter Rabbit. From that moment on, we were brothers. Tyrone was the person who walked me into the Soul Train dance studio. My mother had moved me to Michigan, Grand Rapids, Michigan, and I stayed there for a few years. But I would come back to LA every summer, and it was one of the summers that I met Tyrone. Then I went back to Grand Rapids. I was still in high school. I had a band there, I had a dance group there. Everything was going on. I had a band called Captain Crunch and the Funky Bunch. I was playing keyboards and singing in the band. I had a dance group we were first called the Funky Bunch of Dancers, then we changed to the Lockland Dancers. Because we were locking, I wore the derby, all that stuff, the big bow tie, all that. So I'm in Grand Rapids going to school, and I wasn't doing well in school to the point that I was just going. Even the principal had a meeting and asked me, why am I still going to school? Because I'm going to repeat another grade if I stay there. And so then I thought, why am I here? So Soul Train, I'm watching Soul Train every Saturday on TV in Grand Rapids. And I'm like, what am I doing in Grand Rapids when Soul Train is in LA? And that's where I want to be. So I called Tyrone and I told him I was coming. He said, okay, come. I got money from a friend of mine, got on the airplane, flew back to LA on a Friday night because that Saturday morning was a taping. So I went to my friend's place. Tyrone picked me up. We went to Soul Train together and he talked to Chuck Johnson to let me in. He said, please, this is my little brother. He came in from Michigan. Can he stay here and watch? And he said, okay, he could come in, but he can't dance. Tyrone walked me in. I got in. Tyrone was up there dancing. Everyone's dancing. I'm looking at all my favorite Soul Train dancers. And a song came on and I couldn't sit down. I ran out on that floor and I danced anyway. And that's how it started. I had to sneak into Soul Train. I had to sneak into Maverick's Flat too.
Wow, it's crazy. It's like you have a very similar story to Tyrone, you know, just going to the club to find the Soul Train dancers, sneaking on the show in a different way, but it's amazing. And Tyrone was always the kind of person to give other people opportunities. You know, he was always gonna help somebody if he could.
Yep, we're the same. I'm born August 24th. Tyrone is born August 29th. We're both Virgos, and we are so much the same in that sense, in our mannerisms and our temperament and the way that we love helping people. We shine on our own, but we don't mind sharing the shine because we're not intimidated by other people's spotlight. We're not intimidated by other people's shine. And it was all of that. At one time, I was trying to make a group with me, Tyrone, Jody, and Sharon. And I said, you guys, we got to put music together. And they didn't take it serious. Up until Tyrone, left us, he kept saying, I should have listened to you, Jeffrey. I should have listened to you. But I was trying to do that with us. And so it just turned out that, things worked out the other way. Because Tyrone auditioned for the Soul Train Gang singing group. And I auditioned for it, and we were both rejected.
Wow.
And we were both just floored. We were devastated because Soul Train was our life. And we figured, if they got a singing group, we're going to be in it. And they didn't choose either one of us for it. I'm in Los Angeles, and I'm staying with Tyrone and his friend Roger Boone. And he owned a shop called Stereo World. And that's where Choisette was working, at Stereo World. So I met our big sister, Choisette. I would go there every day and lick the envelopes and write up the stamps and letters because Tyrone and Sharon were in the American Bandstand dance contest. So we would go there every day and buy these stamps and buy these envelopes and mail in votes for them, for the American Bandstand. And that's what I was doing every day. And I was in the studio when him and Sharon won the cars. When they won the contest, I was there in the American Bandstand studio, sitting in the audience. And so, come to find out, we didn't have to do all that because after they won the contest, the producer came to them and told them that they won by such an overwhelmingly amount of votes. Even if we didn't send those votes in, they still would have won by a big margin. But they won by such a landslide. It was crazy.
It's incredible. Soul Train was such an iconic show. It was the first type of show like that. Can you tell us, why is Soul Train important to American history, in particular American Black history?
Very good question, and I'll explain to you why. Every Saturday morning, I'm watching cartoons with a bowl of cereal, before, I do whatever chores I have to do, whatever. One Saturday, I was watching cartoons, and when the cartoons went off, this show came on. And these kids were dancing. And like I've always been a dancer, me and my two older sisters. I have two older sisters and my mom. And that's why I started dancing at home with my sisters and my mom. And my sisters and I would dance at school. We would win all the dance contests. So I saw this TV show. They had the afros, they had the nice looking clothes. And we didn't even have a color TV, okay? So I couldn't see the colors yet. But they were doing what I love to do. And I'm like, Janice, Joyce, Mommy, look at this. And that's when I first saw Soul. I didn't hear about it. I didn't see about it. I just saw it. From that moment on, I couldn't miss Soul Train. If my mother wanted to go shopping, grocery shopping, she said, come on, Jeffrey, let's go shopping. I said, Mommy, but Soul Train's coming up. She said, we have to go shopping. I would cry all the way to the supermarket. I'm not exaggerating. I would cry if I missed Soul Train. It was the place for me to be. It was so magical. And you have to understand why. Another reason why. I wasn't thinking it at the time. Up until Soul Train, mostly when you saw Black people on television, especially young Black people, were being chased by the police, were playing drug dealers, were playing outlaws and gangsters, or either it was a lot of buffoonery type of comedy. And you have to understand, in the 70s, that's when the Black exploitation films were coming out. Superfly and Goldie, the Pimp of the Year, and Max, Julian, and all these pimp images and prostitutes and Shaft and all these kind of Black exploitation films were coming out. In the middle of that comes something that shows Black people with integrity, Black people looking good and doing what I love to do most, dance. Now, another reason why Soul Train was important, we're going back to the 70s in America. So if you're a recording artist, and if you're not in the top of the charts, you're not going to get on the big shows, like Diana Ross can get on, or maybe a Marvin Gaye. But if you're kind of coming up the ladder, you're not going to get on those major white TV shows. Soul Train was a platform for up-and-coming Black artists to be seen on a national level. Suddenly they're catapulted up into that top level. So Soul Train meant so much for recording artists, for us dancers, and Black America. It was a beacon for Black America to show that we had some type of pride and dignity of being Black. And we were owning our Blackness. I don't want to just talk terms of black and white, you know, because whites were endeared to it too, and people just loved it. It was across the board an amazing show. But for the Black community, up until that time, we had very little that we could just really be so proud of. And I'm a part of this. This is a part of me. You know, it changed my life. It changed my life. And above all, Tyrone Proctor changed my life because he was the one that got me onto that TV show. I was always a singer. I was always a dancer. Would it have happened like this without Tyrone? I don't know. All I know is Tyrone got me on that show. And because I went onto that TV show, I got the attention of Don Cornelius and Dick Griffey, and it started my recording career.
Do you remember the year that you first came on Soul Train?
Yes, of course I do. It was 1973. No. It's 74. Sorry, 74. Okay.
74.
I went on in 74 when I was in LA for that summer. Then I went back to Michigan again. So I went on one time. And when I got back to Michigan, people say, "Oh my God, we saw you on Soul Train. We saw you on Soul Train." So I was like a local star because I'm in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And they had saw me on Soul Train. That's when I decided to go back. And it was like January, February of 75. And that's when I got on and started becoming a regular dancer. Tyrone, now we're dancing together all the time, and we used to meet over at Jody Watley's house. Now, I have to tell you guys something, okay? I was pretty much on the verge of homelessness because sometimes I would stay over at Jody's house, but her mother didn't like it because Jody was still in high school. And so then I would stay sometimes at my godfather's house, or sometimes I'd stay over with Tyrone. And Tyrone was pretty much the same. He was staying from here, there to there to there. I was staying from place to place. And that car that Tyrone won at an American Bandstand contest, he left it parked at Jody Watley's apartment while he went on the Soul Train tour with Don Cornelius. There were a few nights that I slept in that car because I didn't have a place to sleep. The funny thing about it is, Tyrone and I were the only two dancers on that show that Don let inside of his circle. So one time, Tyrone and I went up to the Soul Train office, and Chuck Johnson was there, Dick Griffey was there, Don Cornelius was there. And so Don called me and Tyrone into his office. He said, "Let me ask you something. What do you guys do for a living?" And Tyrone said, and I said, he said, "So how do you guys make money?" And we said, "Well, he said, "I mean, how do you guys survive?" Because all we did, we lived for Soul Train. Now, here's the funny thing about it. Let's say I had a regular job. Would that job let me off every Saturday and Sunday that a taping came? Because I had to be there all day in the studio. You understand? We just lived for Soul Train. How did we survive? I'm trying to think about it. How did I get money? How was I surviving back then? I don't know. But that was it. And so when Tyrone won that car, he didn't have money to pay for the taxes on it. He had to go to Don Cornelius, and Don Cornelius wrote him out a check to pay for the tax for it so he can get that car. That's how close Tyrone and I were to Don.
Wow. You know, it's so, I'm asking you about this, and I think it's so important for the younger generations to know about this and to know about Soul Train, and also to know what you all went through. Tyrone spoke about how you were paid in a piece of fried chicken and Coca-Cola. And that's what you were paid for being on the show. Is that correct? They
would have a lunch, and we would get a box of Kentucky Fried Chicken and a can of Coke. That was it. When I did become a choreographer, you have to understand, when I did Michael's Bad video, street dancers were not choreographers yet. And it's through Michael's video that was bringing together jazz and street dance. Right. Because Jody and I, we heard about an audition for a McDonald's commercial. And we were hot Soul Train dancers at the time. So, okay, a McDonald's commercial, and they wanted dancers, let's go. So Jody and I went down to this audition. And this guy was doing, okay, 1, 2, Impala Bay, and Shirley. Me and Jody are like, oh my God, what is going on here? We had never seen choreography like that before. We're not trained dancers in the sense of classically trained. We know what we know. So I had a cassette, and I said, excuse me, we can't do what you're doing, but could you watch us dance? And the guy said, sure. So I put in the cassette. Jody and I got on that dance floor. We did robot routines. I had her on my shoulders down. I was going through her legs. We did locking. We did all the steps. The whole place applauded us. And the guy said, "You two are amazing, but it's not what we're looking for."
Mm-hmm.
The reason why I'm saying this is, up until that time, only trained and jazz dancers were getting jobs, professional jobs.
Mm-hmm.
It was Michael's video that brought the street dancing into the factor. So now, all these jazz dancers and people had to go to a street dance class to learn how to dance like us so they can get a job. Because now, promotional videos are R&B music and funky music. You can't do ballet and jazz to that. You had to do what we were doing.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't come from our neighborhood. They didn't come from our club. That was the beginning of dance classes for street dance.
And is it right to say that none of that would have been possible without Soul Train? Because I feel like Soul Train is what put these dance styles out to the mainstream for people to see in the first place.
Soul Train was the impetus of all this coming together. Soul Train was the one that brought us to the forefront and showed America what these kids are doing.
Mm-hmm.
It was global. We didn't know it was going, at the time, we didn't know it was going to Japan, it was going to other places, but America had to tune into Soul Train to see what was going on.
This is what I want the younger generations to understand, because we're all sitting here traveling around the world, making a living, living these wonderful lives, blessed lives through dance, but none of that would have been possible if it weren't for what you and all of the Soul Train dancers and what Don Cornelius did, because it was groundbreaking and it paved the way. And so it's very important that we pay homage, that we recognize Soul Train and that as an important part of American history, and that we respect the people who came before us.
Thank you very much to put it in those words. It's not just Black American history. Soul Train is American history.
American history, right.
And it became the longest running television show in American history at the time. So, and not just the dancing, you have to understand, the fashion. It set the pace for how we looked, you know, how we carried ourselves, as well as the dancing. It was all of that. It was all of that.